The massive crystal chamber floated in the darkness of space, its walls pulsing with soft blue light. Inside, 12 different alien races sat around a circular table, their forms strange and terrifying. Some had 4 arms, others had scales that moved like water, and a few were made of pure light trapped in glass shells. Admiral Vextar slammed his heavy fist on the table. His species looked like giant insects with 4 powerful arms and black eyes that never blinked. "These humans are spreading too fast," he said, his voice clicking like broken glass. "They have taken 57 worlds in just 10 years. The snake-like creature across from him raised her head. Commander THYSS had scales that changed color when she was angry, and right now they were turning bright red. "Humans breed like insects and spread like disease. Every world they touch becomes theirs." A being made of golden light spoke next. The Luminant had no real body, just energy held together by a crystal container. "Our spies say they learned too quickly. They took our shield technology and made it better in just months. This should be impossible." The oldest creature at the table was Chancellor Drex. His people had been conquering worlds when most others were still crawling in mud. His skin was gray and wrinkled like old leather, and his eyes held the memory of 1,000 destroyed civilizations. "For 5,000 years, we have used the path of death to rule the galaxy. No species has ever stood against our combined power. But humans fight differently," Admiral Vextar said, his mandibles clicking nervously. "They do not follow the old rules of war. They change their tactics too fast. They think of things we never considered." Around the table, other alien leaders nodded in agreement. There was General Korax of the rock-like granite people, whose body looked like moving stone. Captain Zeal of the Void Walkers sat in a chair filled with dark mist, her true form hidden in shadow. Each species had conquered hundreds of worlds, destroyed countless civilizations, and ruled through fear for millennia. "The humans discovered space travel only 200 years ago," said the Luminant, pulsing with frustrated light. "How can such a young race challenge empires that have existed for millions of years?" Chancellor Drex stood slowly, his ancient joints creaking. "Because we allowed them to grow too strong. When they first left their world, we should have crushed them immediately. Now they have spread across the outer regions like a plague." The holographic displays around the chamber showed human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. Each colony was heavily defended, and strange new technologies protected their ships and stations. Worse, humans seemed to cooperate in ways that the alien races never could. Where alien empires fought each other as much as their enemies, humans worked together with frightening efficiency. "They have no respect for the natural order," hissed Commander THYSS. "Strong species should rule the weak. That is the way of the universe. But humans try to make alliances with species we have rightfully conquered." "They freed 3 of our slave worlds last month," rumbled General Korax, his stone body grinding with anger. "The Tekari people we had enslaved for centuries now fight alongside human fleets. This corruption spreads wherever humans go." Captain Zeal's voice came from the shadows like whispered death. "My agents report that humans study us. They watch our battles, record our strategies, and learn our weaknesses. No species has ever done this before." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For thousands of years, alien civilizations had followed the same patterns of conquest. They would arrive at a world with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and destroy any who resisted. The path of death was simple and effective, and it had never failed. "The humans cannot be allowed to continue," Chancellor Drex declared. "I hereby classify them as Category Omega, a threat to the natural order of the galaxy. All member civilizations will contribute their finest warships to Operation Nightfall." Admiral Vextar leaned forward. "How many ships, Chancellor?" "All of them," the ancient leader replied. "Every dreadnought, every battle cruiser, every weapon of mass destruction in our combined fleets. 12,000 ships carrying the power to shatter worlds." The alien leaders exchanged glances. Such a massive force had never been assembled before. The combined firepower could destroy entire solar systems, turn planets into cosmic dust, and bend reality itself. "When do we strike?" asked Commander THYSS, her scales now pulsing with anticipation. "In 1 galactic standard month," Chancellor Drex announced. "That gives each empire time to gather their forces at the staging point beyond human space. We will attack Earth directly and end this threat before it can spread further." The holographic displays shifted to show Earth, a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. It looked peaceful and defenseless, protected only by a few orbital stations and a small fleet of primitive warships. "Such a tiny world to cause so much trouble," mused the Luminant. The smallest parasites often carry the deadliest diseases, General Korax replied. Better to burn out the infection completely than risk it spreading. As the meeting concluded, the alien leaders began making preparations for the greatest military campaign in galactic history. Across 12 different empires, massive warships powered up their engines and began the journey to the assembly point. Each ship carried weapons that had reduced countless civilizations to ash in memory. None of them noticed the tiny object attached to the outer hull of their space station. It was no bigger than a grain of sand, perfectly camouflaged and completely silent. For 3 years, the microscopic human probe had been recording everything that happened in the galactic conclave chamber. As the alien fleets began to gather, the probe transmitted a single message across the void of space. On Earth, human defenders received the intelligence they had been waiting for. The enemy was coming, but humanity would be ready. The greatest war in galactic history was about to begin. Miles beneath the mountains of Colorado, Colonel James Mitchell walked through corridors carved from solid rock. The underground facility stretched in every direction like a vast metal city buried in the earth. For 60 years, humanity had been preparing for this moment, and now their greatest test was only weeks away. The elevator took him down another 1,000 feet to the main command center. When the doors opened, he stepped into a room filled with thousands of screens showing every corner of the galaxy. Hundreds of people worked at their stations, their faces lit by the glow of holographic displays showing alien fleet movements. "Colonel, the probe data is confirmed," said Dr. Emily Watson, hurrying to meet him. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her mind held more knowledge about alien warfare than anyone else alive. 12,000 ships are gathering at the staging point. Every major alien empire is contributing their best warships. Mitchell nodded grimly. At 45 years old, he had spent his entire adult life preparing for this war. "Show me the breakdown." Dr. Watson led him to a massive three-dimensional display in the center of the room. Tiny lights represented enemy ships, each one capable of destroying cities. 4,000 Zephyrian crystal ships with reality-warping weapons. 2,000 Nexari bioships that can poison entire atmospheres. 1,000 luminant energy vessels that burn planets from the inside out. "And the others?" Mitchell asked, studying the display. Corvan dreadnoughts with planet-cracking cannons. Void Walker stealth ships that attack from other dimensions. Every nightmare weapon the galaxy has ever created, all focused on Earth. Dr. Watson's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she spoke. Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes joined them at the display. He was young for his rank, but his specialty was alien psychology, and he had spent years studying how alien minds worked. "The good news is they're following the exact pattern we predicted. Same formation, same approach vectors, same escalation sequence they've used for thousands of years." Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. "Arrogance is our greatest weapon against them. They can't imagine that anyone has studied them as closely as we have." The display shifted to show Earth and the surrounding solar system. What looked like empty space was actually filled with thousands of hidden defensive platforms, each one invisible to alien sensors. "Status report on Project Lazarus." "All systems are online," Dr. Watson replied. "The quantum interference network is ready to jam their communications the moment they arrive. The gravitational field generators can bend their attacks away from Earth. And the neural disruption satellites are programmed with the psychological profiles of every alien species." Hayes pulled up another screen showing human fleet positions. Admiral Foster's ships are hidden throughout the system. 300 vessels using the asteroid belt as cover. 200 more hiding in Jupiter's magnetic field. Another 100 concealed in the solar wind itself. Mitchell walked closer to the Earth display. His home world looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien armada heading their way. But appearances could be deceiving. "What about the mind war protocols?" "That's our secret weapon," Dr. Watson said with satisfaction. 50 years of studying alien conflicts taught us something important. Every species has psychological blind spots, ancient fears, and prejudices they can't overcome. We've designed specific neural attacks for each race. She activated a demonstration showing how different alien brains responded to electromagnetic pulses. The Zephyrians have a species-wide paranoia about betrayal. Hit them with the right frequency, and they'll attack their own allies. The Nexari have genetic memories of a civil war that nearly destroyed them. Trigger those memories, and their fleet coordination falls apart. Hayes nodded enthusiastically. The Luminants are energy beings, but that makes them vulnerable to quantum interference that creates false sensory inputs. We can make them see threats that don't exist. The Corvins have a warrior culture that values honor above strategy. Make them think they're being dishonest, and they'll abandon tactical positions to seek revenge. Mitchell studied the psychological warfare plans with grim appreciation. And if the neural attacks don't work, then we fall back on good old-fashioned human ingenuity, Dr. Watson replied. Our ships may be smaller and less powerful than theirs, but we've had 60 years to study their weaknesses. Every alien weapon system, every defensive protocol, every tactical doctrine, we know them all better than they know themselves. The command center buzzed with activity as technicians made final preparations. In one corner, engineers tested the quantum communication systems that would coordinate humanity's response. In another section, psychologists fine-tuned the mental warfare protocols that would turn the alien fleet against itself. Colonel, called out a young technician from her station. We're receiving updated intelligence from our deep space observers. The alien fleet is larger than expected, over 13,000 ships now. Mitchell felt a chill run down his spine, but his expression remained calm. Any changes to their formation or approach? Negative, sir. They're still following the same predictable patterns. It's like they can't imagine doing things any other way. Dr. Watson stepped closer to Mitchell. James, there's something else. Our analysis suggests this isn't just about destroying Earth. They want to make an example of us. Complete annihilation to terrify any other species that might resist them. Then they're going to get a lesson in human nature instead, Mitchell replied. How long until they arrive? Hayes consulted his calculations. 28 days, 14 hours, 36 minutes. They'll drop out of hyperspace at the edge of our solar system and begin their standard attack pattern. Mitchell looked around the command center at the hundreds of people who had dedicated their lives to this moment. Engineers, scientists, psychologists, strategists, all working together with the same desperate determination that had always defined humanity when facing impossible odds. 60 years of preparation, he said quietly. Every human military mind focused on one goal, surviving the unthinkable. They think they're bringing the path of death to Earth. Instead, they're walking into the most carefully planned trap in galactic history. The countdown clock on the main display showed the time remaining until the alien fleet's arrival. Soon, humanity would discover if their desperate preparations had been enough. The space around Earth's solar system rippled like water as 13,000 alien warships dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his massive dreadnought, the Void Render, watching as the greatest military force in galactic history formed perfect battle lines. All fleets report ready, announced his communications officer. Behind the flagship, ships from 12 different alien empires stretched across space like a metal constellation. Each vessel bristled with weapons that had destroyed countless worlds. Begin the cleansing protocol, Vextar commanded. Show these humans what happens when they defy the natural order. 5 seconds into the attack, the first alien weapons began charging. Reality-warping cannons glowed with purple energy. Bioweapons prepared to poison Earth's atmosphere. Planet-cracking missiles armed themselves for launch. The combined firepower could shatter moons and boil oceans. At exactly 10 seconds, every alien communication system went silent. What's happening? Vextar demanded as his bridge crew frantically worked their controls. Why can't I reach the other fleets? Deep in space, invisible human satellites had activated quantum interference fields. For 60 years, human scientists had studied alien communication technology, learning every frequency and protocol. Now they turned that knowledge into the perfect jamming system. Commander THYSS, leading the Nexri bioships, realized her fleet could no longer coordinate with the others. Switch to backup channels, she hissed, her scales turning bright red with frustration. But the humans had prepared for backup systems too. 15 seconds into the battle, 300 human ships emerged from the asteroid belt. They had been hiding there for weeks, using the floating rocks as perfect camouflage. Admiral Margaret Foster watched from her flagship as her vessels took up attack positions. All units, execute Ghost Protocol, Foster commanded. Her ships moved like shadows, approaching the confused alien formations from unexpected angles. At 20 seconds, the luminant energy weapons fired first. Massive beams of destruction shot toward Earth, carrying enough power to crack continents. But the beams struck seemingly empty space and bent away harmlessly. Earth's own gravity had been turned into a shield, deflecting the attacks into the void. General Korax, commanding the stone-like granite people's fleet, watched in confusion as his most powerful weapons missed their target. How is this possible? Our targeting systems are perfect. 25 seconds into the battle, Dr. Emily Watson's voice echoed through every human ship. Deploy the mine trap. All frequencies, all targets. Across the human fleet, special transmitters activated. For 50 years, human psychologists had studied alien mental patterns, learning how each species thought and what they feared most. Now they broadcast those fears directly into alien brains. At 30 seconds, chaos erupted in the alien fleet. The Zephyrian crystal ships suddenly began firing on their Nexari allies. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his carefully organized formation tore itself apart. All ships, maintain formation, he screamed, but his communications were still jammed. The neural interference made his captains see enemies everywhere. Ancient prejudices and forgotten fears took control of alien minds. The Nexari bioships, convinced they were under attack from within, released poison clouds that drifted toward the Corvan dreadnoughts. The proud stone warriors, thinking they were being dishonored by their allies, abandoned their positions to seek revenge. 35 seconds into the battle, the Void Walker stealth ships tried to attack from other dimensions. But human quantum sensors, invisible to alien technology, tracked their every movement. As the shadow vessels emerged from hyperspace, human missile batteries were waiting for them. Captain Zeal, leader of the Void Walkers, found her supposedly invisible ships surrounded by human fighters. Impossible, she whispered from within her cloud of darkness. No one can detect us in the void. At 40 seconds, Admiral Vextar realized the terrible truth. His mighty fleet was destroying itself, turned against each other by weapons he couldn't understand. All ships, fall back. This is a trap. But it was too late. The human neural attacks had triggered every species' worst instincts. The Luminants, thinking they saw threats everywhere, fired wildly at anything that moved. The Granite people, consumed by artificial rage, rammed their ships into former allies. 45 seconds into the battle, Colonel James Mitchell's voice reached every human vessel. Final phase. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The remaining functional alien ships found themselves completely surrounded. Human vessels emerged from impossible hiding places, some had been concealed behind planets, others had used the solar wind itself as camouflage. Every hiding spot had been planned for decades. Admiral Foster's flagship appeared directly in front of Vextar's dreadnought. Surrender now, and your crews will live, she broadcast on all frequencies. Vextar looked around at his shattered fleet. Ships burned in space around him. His allies fired on each other in confusion. The greatest military force in galactic history had been reduced to wreckage in less than a minute. At exactly 50 seconds, the last coherent alien commander sent a desperate transmission. Battle Prince Corex of the Granite People, his ship surrounded by human fighters, spoke with defeat heavy in his voice. We surrender. In the name of the Galactic Conclave, we surrender. Admiral Foster's reply was broadcast to every ship in the system. Surrender accepted. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding parties. 50.7 seconds after the battle began, 13,000 alien warships hung powerless in space. Their crews sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what had happened. The humans had not just defeated them, they had made it look easy. Colonel Mitchell allowed himself one moment of satisfaction as he watched the defeated alien fleet on his screens. 60 years of preparation had paid off. Humanity had faced the galaxy's greatest threat and won in less than a minute. But as he looked at the tactical displays, Mitchell knew the real work was just beginning. Defeating the aliens had been the easy part. Now they had to figure out what to do with victory. 3 days after the 52nd victory, the emergency meeting took place on Harmony Station, a neutral outpost floating in the darkness between star systems. For the first time in galactic history, humans sat at the same table as the alien leaders who had tried to destroy them. Admiral Margaret Foster entered the circular chamber with steady steps. Behind her walked Dr. Emily Watson and Colonel James Mitchell, the three humans who had planned Earth's impossible victory. Around the table sat the defeated alien commanders, their faces showing confusion, anger, and fear. Admiral Vextar was the first to speak. His forearms trembled as he pointed an accusing finger at the humans. How did you do it? How did a species that learned to fly between stars only 200 years ago defeat empires that have ruled for millions of years? Dr. Watson leaned forward calmly. You want to know our secret? We listened. While you spent thousands of years perfecting ways to kill, we spent 60 years learning everything about you. Every battle you fought, every mistake you made, every weakness you tried to hide. The ancient Chancellor Drex, his grey skin wrinkled with age, stared at Colonel Mitchell with confusion. Impossible. No species has ever shown such patience, such focus on a single goal. Mitchell met his gaze without blinking. You don't understand what humans will do when their children are threatened. Every military academy on Earth studied your wars. Every scientist analyzed your technology. Every psychologist mapped your fears. We turned our entire civilization into a weapon aimed at surviving your attack. Commander THYSS coiled her snake-like body nervously. Her scales had turned pale blue, the color her species showed when deeply afraid. You made us fight each other. You turned our own minds against us. That is not honorable warfare. Neither is destroying entire planets because you think might makes right, Admiral Foster replied coldly. You came to our system planning to commit genocide. We defended ourselves using the knowledge you freely gave us through centuries of conquest. The luminant delegate pulsed with angry red light. You exploited our deepest fears, our ancient memories. No species should have such knowledge of others. Dr. Watson stood and activated a holographic display showing Earth's current condition. The planet looked wounded, with damaged orbital stations and debris fields floating in space. Look at what victory cost us. A third of our space infrastructure destroyed. Our defense systems burned out from overuse. Our economy in ruins from decades of military spending. She gestured to more images showing the aftermath of the battle. We lost 8,000 people in the fighting. Our quantum networks are damaged. Our colonies are defenseless while we rebuild. We didn't win because we wanted to conquer you. We won because you gave us no choice but to fight or die. Admiral Vextar's mandibles clicked in confusion. Then why aren't you demanding our submission? Why aren't you enslaving us as we would have done to you? Colonel Mitchell shook his head slowly. Because that would make us exactly like you. For thousands of years, your civilizations have followed the same pattern. Conquer the weak, enslave the different, destroy anyone who resists. We're offering something the galaxy has never seen before. What? Asked General Corax, his stone-like body grinding with uncertainty. Cooperation, Foster answered simply. The chance to build something better than endless war and domination. The chamber fell silent. The concept was so foreign to the alien leaders that they struggled to understand it. Their civilizations had been built on the idea that the strong ruled the weak. The thought of equals working together was almost incomprehensible. Chancellor Drex spoke slowly, his ancient voice filled with doubt. You truly don't want to rule us? What would be the point? Dr. Watson asked. Your people are terrified of us now. Your economies are built around conquest and slavery. Your cultures celebrate violence and domination. Even if we wanted to rule you, we'd spend centuries just trying to fix the damage your own systems have caused. She brought up new displays showing the current state of various alien worlds. Look at your home planets. The Zephyrians have environmental collapse from strip mining conquered worlds. The Nexari population is starving because they destroyed their agricultural planets in wars. The Granite people are running out of raw materials because they've consumed everything within 50 light-years. Your path of death hasn't just hurt your victims, Mitchell added. It's destroying your own civilizations from within. You're so focused on conquering others that you've forgotten how to sustain yourselves. Commander THYSS uncoiled slightly, her scales shifting to a confused yellow color. Then what do you propose? We cannot simply change overnight. Our people know only war and conquest. Admiral Foster walked to the large viewing window that showed the stars beyond. Some of you will accept what we're offering. You'll learn to trade instead of steal, to cooperate instead of dominate. Your people will be better fed, safer, and happier than they've been in centuries. She turned back to face the alien leaders. Others will refuse. You'll try to rebuild your fleets and attack us again. But now you know what happens when you underestimate humanity. The question is whether you want to repeat history or try to build something better. Dr. Watson activated one final display showing refugee ships approaching human space. 4 to 7 species that you kept as slaves or servants have already contacted us. They want protection, technology, and the chance to rebuild their civilizations. We're going to help them, whether you cooperate or not. The alien leaders exchanged uncertain glances. For the first time in their long lives, they faced a choice that didn't involve conquest or submission. The humans were offering partnership to former enemies, something that had never happened in galactic history. Admiral Vextar spoke quietly, his voice filled with confusion. If we agree to this cooperation, what guarantees do we have? How do we know you won't simply destroy us when we're weak? Colonel Mitchell smiled grimly. You don't. Just like we had no guarantee you wouldn't wipe us out if we'd surrendered. The difference is, we're giving you a choice. Work with us to build something better, or keep following the path of death until it destroys everything you've built. The meeting ended with no immediate answers, but for the first time in galactic history, former enemies were discussing peace instead of planning the next war. 6 months after the 52nd victory, Admiral Margaret Foster stood in the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first diplomatic outpost humanity had built in neutral space. Through the thick windows, she watched ships from 20 different species dock at the station's ports. Some came seeking trade agreements, others wanted military protection, and a few were simply curious about the humans who had changed the galaxy forever. Captain David Thompson approached with a data tablet in his hands. He was Foster's aide, a young officer who had fought in the Great Battle and now helped manage the complex peace that followed. The morning reports, Admiral. The Corvin delegation wants to discuss sharing their mining technology with our colonies. The Nexari are requesting human advisors to help them grow food on their damaged worlds. Foster nodded, still amazed by how quickly some alien species had adapted to cooperation. What about the ones who refused to change? Admiral Vextar's group retreated to the Outer Rim territories. Our scouts report they're trying to rebuild their fleet, but most of their former allies have abandoned them. The Luminants disappeared completely. Intelligence thinks they've returned to their energy dimension and don't plan to return. Dr. Emily Watson joined them at the viewing window. She looked more relaxed than she had in years, though her eyes still held the wariness of someone who had spent decades preparing for war. The refugee resettlement program is working better than expected. We've moved populations from 18 devastated worlds to new planets. The integration between species is surprisingly smooth. Any problems? Foster asked. Cultural misunderstandings, mostly. The Tekari people are having trouble adapting to the concept of individual property after centuries of communal living under Nexari rule. And some human colonists are still suspicious of any aliens, even the ones we're helping. Captain Thompson pulled up a holographic display showing the current political situation across the galaxy. Colonel Mitchell's intelligence teams have identified 63 species that were enslaved or oppressed by the old Galactic Conclave. 41 have already requested membership in the new Terran Alliance. Foster studied the display with mixed feelings. The Terran Alliance was growing faster than anyone had expected, but managing a galactic civilization was proving more difficult than defeating one. How are we handling the applications? Carefully, Dr. Watson replied. We're requiring each species to demonstrate they can cooperate peacefully before we offer full membership. No more automatic acceptance of any government that claims to represent their people. Through the station's communication systems, messages flowed constantly between Earth and the growing network of allied worlds. Human teachers worked with alien students learning new technologies. Human doctors treated patients from a dozen different species. Human engineers collaborated with crystalline architects and energy-based designers to build structures that no single race could have imagined alone. Admiral, Thompson said quietly, sometimes I wonder if we've taken on more than we can handle. Running a galactic government is completely different from winning a war. Foster watched a joint construction crew working on a new section of the station. Humans in spacesuits worked alongside floating luminant refugees, crystal-based Zephyrian engineers, and several other species she couldn't immediately identify. Maybe we have. But look what we've accomplished in just 6 months. 6 months ago, these species were either enemies or slaves. Now they're building something together. A communication alert sounded through the station. Captain Thompson received the message and looked up with surprise. Priority transmission from the Zephyrian home world. Admiral Vextar is requesting a personal meeting with you, Admiral. He's coming alone under a diplomatic flag. Surrender? Watson asked hopefully. Unknown. His message just says he wants to discuss the future of his people. Foster straightened her uniform and considered the implications. Vextar had been the most aggressive of the alien commanders, the one who had pushed hardest for humanity's complete destruction. If he was seeking dialogue, it might mean the last major opposition to the new order was finally cracking. Schedule the meeting, she decided. But full security protocols. I want to hear what he has to say. As the day progressed, more reports came in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were sharing agricultural techniques with former enemy worlds. Alien species were learning human manufacturing methods and improving them with their own technologies. The University of Galactic Studies, established just 3 months earlier, had enrollment requests from over 200 different species. But not all the news was positive. Intelligence reports showed that several alien factions were still plotting against the Terran Alliance. Pirates, former slavers, and die-hard supporters of the old system were causing problems in remote sectors. Some human colonies were being attacked by desperate alien groups who blamed Earth for the collapse of their old way of life. Dr. Watson reviewed the security reports with growing concern. "We're spreading ourselves too thin, Margaret. We're trying to protect 60 worlds while also rebuilding Earth's defenses and managing first contact with new species every week." "The growing pains of peace," Foster replied. "War was simpler in many ways. You knew who the enemies were and what they wanted. Building something new requires trusting people you used to fight." That evening, as Harmony Station continued its orbit between the stars, Foster stood again at the observation deck. The view had changed since morning. Now she could see the construction lights of 3 new diplomatic vessels being built in the station's shipyards. Each ship was designed by teams mixing human engineering with alien innovations. "Admiral Vextar's ship is approaching the docking bay," Thompson reported. "He's keeping his word about coming alone. Scans show no weapons, no escort vessels." Foster nodded. "Then I suppose we'll find out if our former enemies can truly become allies, or if some wounds are too deep to heal." The stars outside seemed brighter than before, as if the galaxy itself was waking up from a long nightmare. Humanity had won their 52nd war, but their greatest challenge was just beginning. Building a lasting peace would require more courage, wisdom, and patience than any battle they had ever fought. The path of death was ending. Whether the path of understanding could truly replace it would depend on choices made by both humans and aliens in the days to come.